Hey there, and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to learn about classical conditioning. Classical conditioning is a type of learning in which a stimulus acquires the ability to evoke a response through repeated pairings with another stimulus that naturally evokes that response. It's also known as Pavlovian conditioning or respondent conditioning. Want to give me a thumbs up? If so, give me a thumbs up. Let's take a look at an example. Pavlov was a Russian physiologist who studied classical conditioning in dogs. He noticed that his dogs would salivate when they saw him. At first, this wasn't because of any special treatment. The dogs just saw him as a person. However, after a while, they began to associate him with food. So when they saw him, they started to salivate because they knew that he would bring them food. This is an example of classical conditioning. The dog learned to associate a neutral stimulus, Pavlov, with a meaningful stimulus, food. So now the neutral stimulus evokes the same response as the meaningful stimulus. There are 4 terms you need to know when talking about classical conditioning: unconditioned stimulus, unconditioned response, conditioned stimulus, and conditioned response. An unconditioned stimulus is a stimulus that evokes a response without prior learning. For example, food is an unconditioned stimulus for dogs because they will naturally salivate when presented with food. An unconditioned response is a response that occurs naturally and inevitably in the presence of an unconditioned stimulus. For example, salivation in response to food. A conditioned stimulus is a previously neutral stimulus that has been paired with an unconditioned stimulus. In the case of Pavlov's dogs, the sight of Pavlov became a conditioned stimulus because he was consistently followed by food. A conditioned response is a response that is evoked by a conditioned stimulus. So, in this example, salivation in response to Pavlov. Let's look at another example. Let's say you have a friend named Bob. You see Bob and you feel happy. Happiness is a natural response to seeing a friend you like. In this case, Bob is the unconditioned stimulus, and your happiness is the unconditioned response. Now, let's say you start studying with Bob every day. Studying is a neutral stimulus because it doesn't naturally make you happy. However, after a while, studying becomes a conditioned stimulus because it's consistently followed by seeing Bob and your happiness. Therefore, your response to studying changes from not being associated with any particular emotion to feeling happy when you study. Now, your conditioned response is feeling happy when you see the conditioned stimulus, studying. Now, here's a fun fact about classical conditioning. You can use it to make yourself happy. How do you think professional sports teams use classical conditioning? They use it to associate their brand with happiness. So, when you see their logo, you feel happy. Movies and TV shows do the same thing. They pair their logo or theme song with happy music and scenes. This makes you associate the logo or theme song with happiness, which makes you feel happy when you see it. Another fun fact is that classical conditioning is how phobias are created. You can create a phobia by pairing a neutral stimulus with something scary. Little Albert was a 9-month-old baby who was not classically conditioned to fear furry animals. However, his mother dressed him up as a furry animal and made scary noises. This created a conditioned stimulus, furry animal, and a conditioned response, fear. So that's classical conditioning. I hope you learned something new. If you want me to keep making these videos, let me know in the comments. And as always, I want to thank all of my supporters for helping me make quality educational videos.